video on demand of all parliamentary sittings and committee meetings. You can rewind, pause, or go to a specific contribution whenever you want, from your home, office, or on the go. Log on now to ParlView at parlview.ttparliament.org.
Follow the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago on Twitter. Our call sign is @TTParliament.
Morning, everyone. Kindly have a seat. Members, advise that I don't as yet have a quorum. So might I suggest that we wait another 5 minutes and see if we do get the numbers. We have one now? Okay, so I think maybe in 5 minutes we'll get one. Welcome, Minister. Sorry to keep you back. I rise and I'll come back in 5 minutes. Members, the meeting of the Standing Finance Committee will resume. I wish to announce that the Leader of the Opposition, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, SCMP, member for Siparia, Mr. Roshan Parry, MP, member for Miaru, have both asked to be excused from today's meeting of the Standing Finance Committee. Honourable members, you would recall that the start time for Monday October 23rd, 2017 is still to be determined. Whip, have you had discussions? Okay, so it's agreed. All right, so we'll determine that later in the day. Okay, so Head 40, Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries. Head 40, Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries, $118,856,290. I will now invite the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries to make a brief opening statement, not exceeding 5 minutes. Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. It's a pleasure to be in this House to articulate the budget of the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries. As you're aware, this is a small ministry. We don't spend much on personal expenditure, recurrent expenditure, and or capital. Most of the serious investment in the energy sector comes through the private sector, which is the energy companies and the state companies, Petrotrin and the NGC. On the revenue side, which we will not be dealing with today, we are a collector of significant revenue, both in terms of royalties, the petroleum impost, and the petroleum levy. We manage the subsidy budget, and you will realize, not prejudging the situation, the subsidy budget has been dropped from $503 million to zero, based on the increase in the diesel and super fuel prices. So I'm here at your disposal to ask any question, to present any level of clarification you may need, and hope that me and my staff will do the ministry well and to do the government well. So I thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, the sum of $118,856. The question is that the sum of $118,856,290 for Head 40, Energy and Energy Industries, stand part of the schedule. Honorable members, the sum of $118,856,290 for Head 40, Energy and Energy Industries, is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following heads and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure and the draft estimates of the development program. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. We are at page 263. Subhead 01, Personal Expenditure, item 001, General Administration, page 263, member for point of pair.
Thank you and morning, Madam Chair. To the Minister, line item 14, remuneration to members of Cabinet-appointed committees. In 2017, you had a revised figure of $700,000, nothing for this year. Could the Minister indicate what committees utilize that $700,000, and he can provide in writing at a later date who sat on those committees and the remunerations of the individuals on those committees?
Back, or do you want to know what committees have been disbanded?
Well, yeah, what the $700,000 in 2017 was utilized for.
Yeah, some of the committees are as follows. The Joint Steering Committee on the Unitization of the Courts Border Hydrocarbon Reserves with Venezuela, they are Cabinet-appointed committee at the technical and the ministerial level that deals with the cross-border gas, primarily Law and Manatee. There's a Power Requirements Committee. There's an Extractive Industries Transparency Committee. There's a Major Minerals Advisory Committee, because mining licenses are not granted without approval coming through this committee for onward forward into Cabinet. There's another important committee called the Permanent Local Content Committee, because as you'll realize, the energy sector, while it's highly capital intensive with significant foreign direct investment, a lot of that money goes back to the United States in particular because of the nature of the industry. So the Local Content Committee tries to capture as much value to the local economy. And finally, there is the Energy Efficiency Services Companies Committee, which monitors energy efficiency.
Follow-up question to the Minister. In writing, you could provide a list of the members who sat on those committees, please.
Yeah, okay.
Remember, you're really looking back. You're not looking for this year.
No, there's nothing for
There's
this.
nothing
Okay.
for this year.
Item 00, subhead 02, Goods and Services. Item 001, General Administration, pages 264 and 265. Member for Point of Pale.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Minister, line item 08, rent lease office accommodation and storage. There's an increase based on the revised estimate of 2017 of $2.3 million. Could the Minister indicate what are the plans? Is it new accommodations, or is it an increase in prices, or is it arrears?
That is for some new accommodation in the Valencia area, where we have a lot of mining inspector staff that has to be housed down there, because we are on a drive to bring greater level of regulation on the mining industry, so that staff is very much needed, and we will also be on a drive to clamp down in a serious way on illegal mining in Northeast Trinidad.
So these officers will be based in the Northeast area?
Yeah, in Northeast area. Yeah.
Member for Caroni Central.
Yes, good morning. Minister, to you and through the chair. Item number 16, contract employment. There's a significant increase there. Can you explain, advise us what it is for, and well, that's the first question.
Oh, yeah, okay. As you know, or probably you don't know, but the Ministry of Energy just had a renewed structure approved by PMCD and the Service Commission, because we really need to beef up our technical capability in the ministry, because it calls for significant monitoring of the oil companies. And with that new structure, 26 contract positions were created, which we hope to implement in this fiscal year. Most of it are for engineers, chemical engineers, petroleum inspectors, geologists, geophysicists, and what have you. So this is money, if I should say so myself, well spent, or will be well spent.
Yeah, I agree that you do need greater technical capability there in the ministry. Most of this will be for monitoring of oil production and therefore revenues due to the
revenues, contract management,
yes,
compliance, which is an important aspect in the industry, and the level of ministerial oversight will be improved.
Will be greater.
Yeah.
This includes quarrying, or just the oil side?
No, it includes quarrying also.
So it's oil, gas, and quarrying.
And quarrying, yeah.
Yes, okay, thanks.
Subhead. Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. Item 28, other contracted services. I see that there is an increase by 2.6 million. I just wanted to inquire as to whether this increase has to do with the desilting or the dredging of the route of the LPG vessel that brings that commodity to silots at the NP compound, because that is a problem that we are facing.
If you go, when you look at the development program, you will see that money budgeted there. It's 22 million. But this additional sums at the variance is around 3 million, 2 point something. Is basically, apart from existing contracted services, there are two important contracts that will be awarded this year. One is but I don't want to say the Ryder Scott report, because Ryder Scott is a company, but the natural gas reserves audit, which is due this year. The last one expired last year. So that will be a major contract to again quantify the natural gas reserves of Trinidad and Tobago, which is very, very fundamental to the planning process and to the national economy. And there's also a major claim before the Committee for the limits of the continental shelf in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, the population is not very aware of this, but right now we have a presentation towards the Commission for the extension of the continental shelf, which is part of the law, the sea, which will define our international boundaries beyond the 200 miles exclusive economic zone. That has some significant consequences, especially on the Atlantic side, where we share borders with Barbados, Suriname, and Guyana. And you know that whole basin there is proving to be quite attractive for hydrocarbon exploration. So this is a significant thing. We have somebody on the commission right now as we speak. She's a senior geophysicist at the Ministry of Energy, and she's doing human service, and this could have very, very far-reaching economic consequences for the country, and we're working assiduously on this.
Member for Point of Pear.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Minister, line item 58, medical expenses. Normally, this is a small item. I noticed in 2017, it went up to $275,000.
Well, yours truly. Is medical expenses you?
For the Minister.
Huh?
Meaning for you.
Most of that was spent on me for my operation. Yeah. Well, praise the Lord for that.
Subhead 03, minor equipment purchases, item 001, general administration. Member for Kamutu Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, if you can advise what type of vehicle is expected to be purchased using this allocation?
Most of it will be pickups for the quarry sector, because on the oil and gas sector, where we monitor the various companies, a lot of the engineers are traveling officers who use their own vehicles. But in the mining sector in particular, where you have to go through, you know, this rough terrain in the northeast Trinidad, that's where most of that money will be spent.
Member for Caroni Central.
Would you mind if I asked a question on 28 of the it's really to provide some information to the minister, really.
But this is contract services?
Yes.
To provide information?
Yes, because he made a point about the seabed expansion.
And you think it is really necessary that we go
Well,
back?
fine, I can always tell him outside.
Thank you so much. Subhead 04, current transfers and subsidies. Item 001, regional bodies. Item 004, international bodies. We're on page 266. Member for Point of Pear.
In household?
Item 007, households, page 266. Member for Point of Pear.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Minister, based on the shortfall in subsidy resale of petroleum products, nothing is budgeted for this year. So is it safe to say that there are no more subsidies on petroleum products?
No, there is still some residual subsidy, which is 21 cents on diesel per liter and 29 cents on super. But that money will be met by the petroleum production levy, because remember, the oil companies are taxed the levy to assist in the subsidy. The estimate for that tax this year is $264 million, and that very likely will cover the cost of the residual subsidy that still exists on liquid fuels.
Thank you.
Member for Chaguanas West.
And I am advised hereby, and there's subsidies on LPG also. Yeah, by the 264 million coming from the petroleum production levy.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Madam Chair, I am on 009, other transfers.
Okay, I'm now moving to item 009, other transfers. Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The line item 07, Natural Gas Export Task Force, an allocation of $2.2 million. What is the remit of this body and what is the composition? And what is the expected outcome of this task force?
As you realize that there's a natural gas master plan that was presented recently. It was tabled in Parliament. It's a very comprehensive document making some very, very far-reaching and serious recommendations to be implemented. This natural gas task force is a body that was set up to assist in that implementation process and to provide professional advice. It is, through it we do take on a lot of international consultants to further advise on some of the main strategic issues as it relates to the international trade of gas. So that is what this money is allocated for. The Natural Gas Task Force is chaired by former Minister of Finance, Mr. Wendell Motley. And I could probably provide the names of the other members for your edification as a written response.
Yeah, is there a time period for their report, and will the report?
No, there's a continuous working process, yeah.
So
Member for Caroni Central.
Are they going to be, is this committee going to be involved in negotiations with the companies, or is it just advice to the ministry?
Well, it's basically advice. They do not involve in direct negotiations because we have to be very careful who has the core responsibility to perform that job. But they work extremely closely with the Ministry of Energy and with the Standing Committee, the Cabinet Standing Committee on Energy.
Okay. Item 011, transfers to state enterprises, page 267. Member for Kamuto Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay. Honorable Minister, line item 01, the establishment of the Quarries Authority. Is this authority functional at the moment?
No, it is a proposal which we have budgeted some money for. From a policy point of view, I think I want to review that, whether we really do need a Quarries Authority, but it's budgeted there and a decision will be made on that shortly.
Member for Point Appeal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Minister, line item 04, equity injection to Alutech Limited. 2017 estimate, the original estimate was 661,000. In 2017, they had a revised estimate of $35 million, 171. And this year is 661. Could the Minister explain what was the cause for this extraordinary injection in 2017, which was not originally budgeted for?
As you are aware, the former P&M administration had a policy position to become deeply involved in the aluminum industry. That was the basis for the using of the gas for the aluminum smelter plant in Point Lisas. That was the basis and the rationale for the building of the TGU plant in Labrie. As we speak, we are very much exposed in the electricity grid system for paying for unused power in take-or-pay arrangements with the power generation companies. That project was cancelled largely because of, I think, the opposition, if I should say so myself. However, we still feel that we can salvage a downstream aluminum industry based on imported ingots. And that is the rationale for the Sural initiative, because in the first plan, we would have been producing our ingots for downstream work at the E-Tech Park in Tamana. We still feel there's the potential, the work is still being done for a downstream aluminum industry, especially for wheels, aluminum wheels, because strange enough, over this time of depressed commodity prices, one of the few prices in the world that has not been depressed is aluminum. And that is largely because of the motor car industry and aluminum wheels, which has now become ubiquitous throughout the motor car industry. So that's the rationale for that.
follow-up.
Sorry?
Just a follow-up question, Madam Chair. Seeing that you injected 35 million this year and a small amount budgeted for 2018 of 661, do you envision another equity injection more than 661?
Well, is a joint venture partnership, so the partner has to invest some equity now. There is some kit that exists as we speak down at the E-Tech Park in Tamana. Okay, so, and then there's a building that will be used by the company. So all this, we hope, should take some traction and pick up some speed this year.
Just another last point, Minister. It was interesting, but nothing was mentioned, at least I missed it, and no statement was made about this in the budget statement of 2018.
Well, I mean, it's in the grand scheme of the budget, it is a small investment. The major investment was in the smelter plant, and that has been scrapped for reasons better known to you all.
Member for Caroni Central.
Okay, as I understand it, therefore, this is an injection in a company that will produce basically mag wheels.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yes, it is.
And the state equity ownership is how much? Yeah. Yeah.
So much.
I think it's 60-40.
60 for the state. Yeah. I mean, advised it's 60-40, 60 for the state and 40 for CUL. Yeah.
Okay, so would that 35 million injection, that would have been within the ambit of the 60% ownership?
Huh?
It would have been within the framework of the 60% ownership, or would that have increased the equity participation?
Yeah. Huh? To progress the project.
As a 60% partner?
Yeah, well, that is the framework.
All right. Okay. One more.
Let me clarify something here, because I don't want it to be misunderstood and then come back. And there is some settlement with respect to the closure of the project, where the minority partner would have had claims against the state.
The state, yeah.
Those matters are still in negotiation. However, both partners have agreed to go forward, and some of that settlement consideration would be taken into account. So that 35 million is not directly into investment going forward. It will contribute some way to whatever comes out of the settlement of the claims. But the claims, the figure, there's a figure, it's a small figure, 5 million.
And what it is
Number of arbitration proceedings which were triggered
I'm aware of that.
by the closure of the project by the last administration. Those arbitrations have been concluded, and we've settled them, but the partners have agreed to go forward into a new business on the 60-40 arrangement. So that, I want you to have that in your mind as you go forward.
So
and let me just add, while I'm on this subject, Madam Speaker, let me add something else. This is not the end of it. We are in discussions with the Chinese government with respect to settlement of another claim with respect to the closure and abandonment of the smelter project. That is, as a matter of fact, that is a much larger sum we have been dealing with, and that is still in the pipeline. As a matter of fact, only tomorrow morning, was it today? Today, we have a meeting with the Chinese on that matter. So that is in the pipeline. It's not in the budget, but it's on the table.
Okay. One more question. On the 01, the quarries issue, Minister, you said that you're going to review this to determine how you're going to go forward. But you know, at the present time, based on the auditor's report of 2016, only 5 quarries basically have legitimate contracts with the state, and the other 50-plus quarries are in fact either waiting for contracts to be renewed or in fact are not registered at all as quarrying enterprises under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Energy. So this is a matter that really requires attention because it's a bleeding of revenue from the state.
We are very much seized of that, sir, and all steps have been put in place to regularize that in shortest possible time.
Yes.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Madam Chair, I want to ask a question on item 03, but I want to follow up on this Alutech matter. I was of the opinion that because of the failure of Sural to make their equity injection in Alutech, that is one of the reasons for the failure of the company. So I just want to, so you can respond to that down the road. But with respect to item 03.
Madam, yeah, thank you very much. Those statements are completely incorrect. And I do not wish that that position be advanced as anything serious. There's no such position. The failures and the arbitrations and the liabilities that we are dealing with and facing now are as a direct result of the UNC shutting down the aluminium project, which started with the smelter and downstreaming. What I just mentioned about the Chinese government has to do with the UNC closing down the smelter. That was being funded by the Chinese Export Bank, Exim Bank. We have liabilities there in the approximation of about $100 million US. The Alutech was the downstreaming from that. So once we stopped that project, Alutech couldn't go forward. The Alutech equipment, $40 million US worth of it has been in a warehouse ever since. What we are trying to do now is to restart that project so as to save the downstreaming side based on imported ingots, since we have killed the smelting side of it. That's one of the conditions in the conversation with the Ghanaians who had a smelter. We were hoping we can get ingots from them or from the open market. What is in front of us now is the possibility of sourcing aluminum ingots from the open market and having a downstream industry restarting the Alutech end of it. So what you have said there is completely incorrect and the opposite of what happened. This is the outcome of the country under the UNC shutting down the aluminium industry, starting with the smelter. So we have no smelter on the table now, but we are looking at ingots for downstreaming. And that's where the Alutech Government of Trinidad and Tobago joint venture partnership is still going on a 60-40 basis.
Thank you. Well,
yeah,
thank you. Prime Minister, perhaps out of an abundance of caution and in the interest of transparency, there ought to be an appreciation given to the Parliament and to the country of Sural's equity injections in whatever the incarnations are throughout that whole process, from the smelter to Alutech.
I mean, there's transparency. There's nothing more transparent than the shutdown of that project. I have just said that as a result of that, it triggered certain arbitrations which have gone on, which have been completed. The state has liabilities which we are in negotiations with, but the partners have agreed to continue to try and salvage the downstream of it. There's nothing else to say.
No, I am merely asking, through you, Chair, of the equity injections by Sural in whatever company incarnations with respect to the smelter and Alutech. I am asking for that.
You want to close that down too?
Okay, members.
Clear here, I don't know what he's telling me. We just said we are proceeding to try to get a company on a 60-40 to salvage what has been damaged before. So there's nothing that is being hidden. So the word transparency is not on the table. There's nothing more to say at this point in time.
We are making an equity injection, and there is a partnership, and there is a consortium of Trinidad and Tobago together with Sural. We are making an equity injection, and I want to know what is Sural's equity injection. That's a simple matter for me.
But it might be simple for you, but I don't want you to mislead the public. I just told my colleague from Coronado Central that as we deal with the 60-40 arrangement, the liabilities which we are exposed to arising out of the arbitrations which we have lost will form part of that discussion. Did you get that clear? So, and that is where the matter is at the moment.
I mean, if I think...
Just one minute, member. In terms of, I am recognizing Karani Shogunas West. I think you finished with 04. I think you have a question with 03. Yes. Do you wish to pursue that?
Yes, I will pursue that.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
I'll come back to you, Karani Central.
The 03 environmental indemnity to the Power Gen Company of Trinidad and Tobago. There is an allocation in this line item of $3.7 million. Could the minister indicate as to what stage of the dismantling of this power plant, what progress has been made, and whether or not there is what is the projected cost of this indemnity, environmental indemnity?
Madam Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Shogunas West. And for the benefit of the public, this is a very important point that needs to be made. It seems that in 2014, under the UNC administration, the then cabinet took a decision to wholly indemnify the shareholders and foreign owners of Power Gen for any environmental claims, any works that needed to be done to dismantle it. So we were shocked when we came in and saw that you all as a cabinet added language in terms where it made it express and clear that the government and the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago have to pay all of the cost for dismantling this plant that the foreign shareholders of Power Gen would have made profits for over the years, expatriated their profits back to wherever it is, and you all as a government, instead of protecting the taxpayers, put us under an express indemnity and liability for all of the costs. And so far, the costs have been estimated, I think, at over $10 million just for the environmental clearance and the removal. So we question, why would a government that is supposed to protect the taxpayers and the public of Trinidad and Tobago take a position to take on the liability for foreign shareholders who have only expatriated profit, made money off of us, and taken their money outside? Why would the then cabinet have taken a decision to put, and I repeat it for the public of Trinidad and Tobago, express language that says we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, would pay for all of the dismantling, any environmental cost, anything that changes, etc., and not protect us, the taxpayers. Opportunity.
Shogunas West.
It is my understanding, through you, Madam Chair, and I would like the Minister of Energy to respond to this. In the 1994 Power Purchase Agreement, it is my understanding that the 1994 Power Purchase Agreement included a clause dealing with the whole question of indemnity in the event. So that therefore, if there is an addition, I would like the member to provide that to the Parliament, to the clause.
Madam Speaker, again, I thank the member for Shogunas West for that, because it shows, yes, in the initial agreement, there was a clause that could have been interpreted, because what the clause said is if there's any change of law, any environmental issue that arises, the government would pay for it. But then when a decision was taken in 2014 via cabinet note, taken in 2014 to dismantle, and they never told the public they were going to be dismantling the Ryson Road plant, they added additional language. So we would be pleased to bring the additional language that took it out of the 1994 language to now say, when we're dismantling going forward in the future, as we plan to, we will pay all of the costs. So we did not even have an opportunity, because we examined it to see if we had an opportunity to protect the taxpayers. But because of the express, clear, unambiguous language added in 2014 that expressly dealt with that particular circumstance, they saddled the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago with tens of millions of US dollars once again, whereas it should have been, is a little ironic. We were just talking about and sharing equity with partners. They didn't do that. They put all on us, the taxpayers.
Member for Kamucha Manzanilla.
Madam Chair, let me just answer. Look, I have the cabinet minute here, and it specifically states undertaking environment remediation work, not only at facilities in Ryson, you know, in Point Lisas and in Pinal. So every year we get our bill. Good? And the date of this is December 5th, 2014.
What?
We were sitting on that side then. So in other words, apart from the Rising Road decommissioning, we get bills annually, sometime in $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, for remedial work in Penal, for remedial work in Point Lisas. Only to the account of the Exchequer.
Madam Speaker, I would think that this conversation could end with a simple answer to a simple question. Why would the government of Trinidad and Tobago have done that?
Okay, so member for Kamuto Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I come back to line item 04, Honorable Minister, and my question is, Sural could not have provided any documentation, any agreement as to the injection of any funds on their part. They could not have provided anything except to say that...
Member, is that a question?
It is,
Okay.
and I'm allowed 5 minutes, not so, as a preamble. Okay. Yeah, so I'm continuing, and the only thing they could have provided was a verbal agreement that the government of Trinidad and Tobago at that time would inject 100% of the cash injection. And my question is, why is it that the government fostered that burden on the population of Trinidad and Tobago? And why would they have taken a decision to pay $40 million US for a project that has not been proven? And why would you continue to inject equity into a project that will not bear fruition?
Madam Chair, I think the Prime Minister adequately answered all matters pertaining to Agrotech. The money has to do with settlement of litigation and or reviving the project. To say the project is not proven is wrong. What is there to be proven that you can take aluminum ingots and make motor car wheels? There's nothing to prove in that. So I think the Prime Minister has adequately answered it, and I have nothing more to add.
Madam Chair, can the Minister?
Member, we have allowed some background about the 2017 estimates. What we're really looking at is the 2018 estimates, which is a $5 million figure. Okay? So that I would also suggest that further interrogation is always permitted under another forum. Okay? Member for point.
Madam Chair, just to ask the Minister, based on what the Prime Minister indicated, the Prime Minister indicated that monies were here to pay back the monies that were assigned. So I just want to know where is the written agreement that there is in fact.
And all I'm saying, member, that is something under the 2017 estimates. And I'm saying that you are allowed an opportunity to interrogate that further if you wish, but I will not allow it in this forum. Member for Caroni Central.
I'm fine, I won't pursue anything.
Okay, so honorable members, we now move on to the draft estimates of the development program. We go into another book, page 106. Subhead 09, Development Program, Consolidated Fund, item 005, Multi-Sectoral Services, page 106. Member for Point of Pair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Minister, line item 003, Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Initiatives. In 2017, we budgeted 18 million. 1 million was spent in 2017, and 2018 a budget amount of 7 million. Could the Minister state what is the status of the project in respect to energy efficiency initiatives, and because it has been talked about a lot in the last 2 years or so under your ministry, and what's the strategic plan for this project going forward?
The Ministry of Energy obviously has to champion the cause for renewable energies. We are signatory to the Paris Agreement, where we are committed to generate 10% of our power by 2021. Now, having said that, the ministry's budget for renewables is not specifically for renewable energy projects. It's for education, it is for smaller projects like solar lighting on grounds and a couple of matters like these. But on the major renewable initiative, we have proposals coming through the National Energy for some wind farms in southeast Trinidad, and we are a little handicapped by solar because solar's footprint is so large. It calls for 1 megawatt of power. It calls for a hectare of land with solar panels. But I just want to, for clarification purposes, to say that we have right now invitation for proposals for a waste-to-energy project, which will be placed at the Beetham Estate, Beetham landfill, and that will use municipal waste to generate electrical power. While Census Strict 2, that is not classified as renewable, it comes close in a real way. And the other thing I need to say is that Trinidad and Tobago has been championing the cause for CNG. Okay, so again, while CNG is not technically classified as renewable, it is the cleanest form of fossil fuels. All our power generating capacity comes from gas-run turbines. Okay, we are one of the few countries in the world like that, outside of the Middle East. So, and with our major trust in CNG, we have taken a decision at the cabinet that all government vehicles by next year, we have a target of 30% will be CNG, and all new purchases will also have to have the CNG conversion kit. We're going to expand the gas station network for CNG. You all famous Cuba roundabout fiasco, where you built a lot of things resembling tanks. I don't know what they are. We will be converting that into a flagship CNG station. We have a CNG station carded for Tobago because there are some CNG buses that will be placed in Tobago, and we're starting to market Tobago in a greener way, so that will be there also. So I think we are coming close to our target of 10% of renewables. And I think if we can get the wind farm project going, which has the capacity to generate 50 megawatts of power and to sell on the national grid, that will be a help. I have one caveat to say. Again, based on is a corollary to the Alutrin project, because there was a time just under the last year of UNC regime, we were paying, TNTech was paying TGU $45 million a month in a take-or-pay contract for unused power. Okay. We have spare capacity in this country now to take us until 2021. So if we bring in a big renewable project and buy power, we still have to pay for power that we're not using. Okay. So you understand, when you take a decision, it has consequences, serious consequences. So it's not only affecting Sural and downstream and aluminum smelter. No, we have a big plant in TGU. As a matter of fact, we have cut down the 45 million deficit. You know why? Because we are now, because of the Gandhi Village substation, we are now taking most of the power from TGU because they have more efficient generation of power and using less gas to generate electricity. And we pay the take-or-pay component of it to power gen.
Right. A follow-up question to the Minister. As far as renewable energy and the legislation what's the status with that? As respect to TNTech?
We're working on that. That is the feed-in tariff for grid connections of non-utility scale distribution electricity, and the FITs, and that is in progress. Yeah.
Member for Caroni Central.
My question was on the renewable energy sector there, but I won't pursue the matter now.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Part of my question was asked by the member for Point of View and answered by the minister with respect to the feed-in tariffs and the necessary legislation. But I want to deal with the issue of this waste to energy. I saw your RFP, and I was taken aback by the fact that you had a very short time period, October 30th. But the point I wanted to ask, what is the extent of the subsidy that the government will be providing for a waste to energy plant? Because it is my understanding that it costs around 41 cents to produce a waste to energy, 8 cents with natural gas, and about 12 to 15 cents for solar production of energy. So when you embark on a plan to create a waste to energy plant that requires the whole separation of waste and so on, that's all very well for the society and environmentally. The question is that having regard to the subsidy required for that to be economically effective, what is the extent of the subsidy that will be provided?
Well, I think that question is premature because the request for proposals are now out. It will be concluded at the end of this month. You have to see what models, economic and or technical models that have been presented for the waste energy facility, and then you start to talk that language. But to talk about the extent of subsidy, if there will be any at all, is extremely premature at this time in Chaguanas West.
So, through you, Madam Chair. So, Honorable Minister, you're telling me that having regard to the worldwide overall cost associated with waste to energy plants, and I'm not dealing with the toxic ash disposal issue, as against in which we have a natural gas-based power generation taking place, and in which we have the potential for solar, which is much cheaper. You are saying that you are depending upon the RFPs to come in, and then you will see.
Yes, we have to.
Okay. Member for Kamuta Manzanilla.
I'd just like to make a point. There is a point of view that renewable energy is cost-effective. It is not. Renewable energy is far more expensive than energy produced by hydrocarbons. It's far more expensive. The technology is continuing to evolve, but in Europe, where there was a big drive among the EU, in fact, they have agreed to 20% of energy from renewable sources by the year 2020. They've had to give tremendous subsidies for wind power, for solar power, and so on. So that it's not the panacea that people think it is. The technology is improving, but it is more expensive than energy from conventional hydrocarbon sources. And I think people need to know this. There is a view that it is equivalent and it is cost-effective. It is not at this time. In fact, I had seen a presentation made to the Ministry of Housing some years ago to produce a solar energy pack for a house, a typical HDC house. And it was upwards of $1 million per house to provide these solar panels and so on for a HDC house. You will agree this is not cost-effective to put solar energy equipment on a HDC house costing $1 million. Just for that is not cost-effective. So whereas there is a drive, we must look at the ozone layer, we must look at global warming. Do not believe that renewable energy is cheaper than conventional energy.
Well, Minister, I think we are both speaking from the same hymn book, because I am dealing with the issue of the subsidy. And with respect to environmental issues, the cleanest burning fuel is natural gas. So it is not a problem with respect to ozone layer in the context of Trinidad. So my question was, unlike yours, it is very expensive to engage in renewable energy, although it may be the flavor of the period.
Yeah, if I should say so myself, who else said?
Member for Kamuta Manzanilla.
Madam Chair, Honorable Minister, line item 005, Extractive Industries Transparency Initiatives. Will this initiative address the issues of the A&V fake oil issue?
The Extractive Industries Transparency International Initiative deals with their independent group, voluntary, that is the Ministry of Energy on behalf of the government and all the major oil companies and certain NGOs are signatories too. What they do, they track government revenue as it relates to the supposed revenue that came from the oil companies. And I am pleased to report that their last report did in fact indicate that it was very, very little variation from the revenues that the government said it received from the energy sector and from what the energy sector actually said that it paid the government. And I think that we're one of the few countries in the world where there's such virtually 100% congruence in that regard.
Member for Kamutu Manzanilla.
The fact that you're looking at saving and protecting, regarding the same A&V issues, what will be done to prevent further issues like that arising?
What item are you on?
005.
But 005, I think the minister explained was extractive industries, which said nothing with respect to what you were speaking about.
There's absolutely no relationship between the two items.
All right, so might we go on? Member for Naparima.
Thank you. Madam Chair, 007, the Environmental Policy Grant Project from the EU. I see no money has been allocated, but I recall earlier this year that the EU representative indicated that we stood to lose $18 million because we had develop certain policy initiatives with respect to sustainable development and environmental policy. Could the minister give us a status report on whether we were able to access that $18 million?
Okay, now, there are a number of aspects on this EU grant policy. In one case, we did benefit from the EU consultant helping us to develop a roadmap for the renewable energy sector, and the handover ceremony for that was early in September, might have been September the 5th, I stand to be corrected on the date. But also in the mineral sector, so there was an initiative that the ministry would have spearheaded where we committed to developing an automated system for monitoring some of the work done in the mineral sector, and we were able to have that IT work completed in time at the end of last year so that we were able to access some of the funding on the EU grant.
So you're saying specifically that $18 million has been accessed?
Yes.
Thank you.
Point of pay.
I'm okay.
So, honorable members, we will now move on to item 003, economic infrastructure. This is at page 221, same book. Item 003, Economic Infrastructure, Infrastructure Development Fund. Member for Point of Pay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Minister, 001, under Industry Development of Industrial Sites, 20.6 million was spent in 2017, and 58.6 is identified, budgeted for 2018. Could the Minister, if he doesn't have it now in writing, oh, sorry, 21. Oh, sorry. So 21 million identified this year. Could the Minister in writing, or if he doesn't have it now, identify those locations?
No, I can answer now. I think I want to preface what I say by, for those of you who are familiar with budgets in the past, especially during the so-called better years, you would have seen where through the PSIP, the government funded a lot of the development of industrial sites. Okay? Based on our economic constraints, now we have taken a decision that the investment and the development of industrial estates, which falls under the remit of the NGC group of companies through the national energy, they will have to fund that from an economic basis because it is a business they are in. This, our money will be better spent on other utilities in the country. So the development of industrial sites here, this 21 million, is a residual cost largely to deal with the relocation of people in the Labre area, which is the Union Estate, in what is called a buffer zone, where you cannot be within a certain radius of the industrial estate. And this 21 million is to relocate around about 60 families outside.
60?
Yeah.
And it's specifically for Labrie?
Yeah, for the Union Estate. Mm-hmm.
Member for Naparimo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 011, the dredging of the Sealot main channel and turning basin. Does that have to do specifically with the NP vessels?
Yes, specifically.
Nothing to do with Galicia?
No, nothing to do with Galicia. Yeah, this has to do with the NP turning bay, and that is to bring fuels from Pointe-à-Pierre and lubes in particular for the lube plant.
Thank you very much. Could you indicate the procurement process that has taken place, or could you name the contractor?
No, that contract was awarded, I think, since in UNC time, from my understanding. I'm not sure who the contractor is.
So it's not an annual renewal, it's a rollover contract?
It's a rollover contract, yeah.
You're showing the house of that?
Yes, it is.
But item, could I continue? In terms of item 005, development of new port facilities, I see $15 million. This is with respect to the Moruga port?
No. This, again, what I said before, most of these port development that falls under the national energy, which is the Brighton port, which is in Labrie, and Port Galiuta, which is in Guayguayari. Again, there's a major development plan for Port Galiuta. This is some partial funding, again, for some residual cost. I have instructed the National Gas Company through the National Energy that they have to fund these projects from a commercial and economic point of view. There seems to be good traction now with the Port of Galiuta in terms of the people are coming with proposal, because based on our dynamics with the Guyanese, there's serious consideration for using Port Galiuta as the base to service, at least in the initial stages, the offshore operations in Guyana that is supposed to begin in 2019-2020.
Member for Kamuto Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, line item 011, the dredging. Is there a commencement date?
No. Yeah, but
I think from the
he said it was a rollover, and it's a continuation of the
So
no,
that
but I know, but he said that there is going to be the dredging, and the dredging does not happen all the time. If it did, then you would not have.
You want to know the actual date?
Yes.
Minister, would you be able to provide that in writing?
Yes, I'll provide that.
Thank you very much. Member for Carney Central.
Yeah, I was just going to ask on the Galiota port, I imagine the 15 million is allocated for that. What remains to be done there?
The Galiota port services the East Coast. Because of the depth constraint and the draft, with only smaller vessels could operate out of Galiota. Galiota has operated since in the days of Amoco to service the offshore operation. The trend in service boats operation now with offshore facilities, especially where the drilling is now further and further offshore, which is not short-haul trips.
And deeper.
They call for larger vessels because the economics of making the trip is sometimes prohibitive. So that will call for some dredging and building of new piers and what have you. And then when you're looking at Guyana, you're seeing it is estimated that the trip out of Galiota to the offshore facility in Guyana will take 23 hours, which is not particularly bad.
Okay.
Member for Pointe-à-Pierre?
I withdraw.
Member for Princestown, do you have a question? Okay. So, honorable members, the question is that the sum of $118,856,290 for Head 40, Energy and Energy Industries, stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $118,856,290 for Head 40, Energy and Energy Industries, now stands part of the schedule. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, PS.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Head 18, Ministry of Finance. Head 18, Ministry of Finance, $651,049,870. We're going to page 78. And in the interest of time, in the interest of time, we then go to page 105 in the statutory boards.
Huh?
No, I'm just calling out the pages. Oh, yes, but in the interest of time, I will now invite the Minister of Finance to make a brief opening statement not exceeding 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I am very pleased to hear that Kearney Central purporting to speak on behalf of the opposition is not asking any questions. Well, that's what I heard. But the Ministry of Finance, okay, fine. The Ministry of Finance is responsible for the collection of revenue and the release of funds to government ministries, departments, statutory authorities, and state enterprises in order to service the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, in the past, I've used this terminology in the service of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and it appears that members opposite who I believe know better seem not to understand what that means. To service the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago simply means to make funds available to pay inescapable commitments such as salaries, pensions, gratuities, social welfare payments, debt servicing, and also to make transfers, subsidies, and other payments to all of the agencies of the state that together provide service to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So the main responsibility of the Ministry of Finance is to collect revenue and release funds in the service of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $5,651,049,800 for Head 18, the Ministry of Finance, stand part of the schedule. Honorable members, the sum of $5,651,049,870 for Head 18, Ministry of Finance, is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure, the draft estimates of the revenue and expenditure of statutory boards and similar bodies and of the Tobago House of Assembly, and the draft estimates of the development program. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. We are at page 78. Subhead 01, Personal Expenditure, 001, General Administration.
This is the part where they have no questions.
Subhead 01, Item 002, Budget Division, page 79. 003, Customs and Excise Division, pages 79 and 80. 004, Inland Revenue Division, page 80. Member for Caroni Central.
Yes, 003, Customs and Excise Division.
We had 004, Inland Revenue Division.
Zero 003, I had a question, ma'am.
Yeah, we passed
that long
003
time.
some time ago.
Long
and I called the pages.
And the chairman was very explicit.
I had a question on page 80.
Well,
Yes, please.
Can I ask the question, ma'am?
004?
Zero,
We are
00.
004 inland revenue.
All right, 00401. How does this 1 million increase take into account the revenue authority issue and the property tax?
There's no connection.
There's no connection?
No. This is the Inland Revenue Division, which is
I
a
understand
completely separate and distinct entity from the proposed Revenue Authority. And therefore, the Revenue Authority is not in any way connected to this line item.
Zero, 05, Treasury Division, page 81. 008, Investment Division, page 81. 009, Central Tenders Board, page 82. Member for Caroni Central.
Central Tenders Board, 009. Did the Central Tenders Board engage with, or is engaged, did Central Tenders Board engage in any way with the following projects: the highway to Manzalina and the road to Toko?
No.
No?
No.
Could I ask what is the source of funding for the highway to Manzalina?
What line item would that be?
I was following up on your...
I'm just asking you what line item would that be?
I am still on the Central Tenders Board.
Since I said that the Central Tenders Board was not involved, then I can't see how you could ask the supplementary question. They are not involved. You should have asked that in the Ministry of Works when that was being examined.
.010 Valuation Division, page 82. Member for Kamutu Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, line item 08. Can you identify how many posts are presently vacant in this for this line item?
Yeah, we will provide that for you in writing. But however, you should note that the implementation of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Property Act is now contingent on the appointment of the procurement regulator by His Excellency the President. And I want to make that clear because there is a misconception, pervasive misconception, which I see in editorials and so on, that the government or the parliament is somehow holding up the implementation of the Public Procurement Act. The act that was passed by this parliament requires His Excellency the President in his own discretion to appoint the procurement regulator, and the Office of the President advertised the post and received applications at the end of August. And it is my understanding that the Office of the President is now in the process of evaluating the applications and will make that appointment in due course. Until then, the act cannot be proclaimed any further because without a procurement regulator, you can't proceed, and therefore we have to maintain the Central Tenders Board until the regulator is appointed and the procurement board can come into effect. In that case, even though there is an item here and it's very small, as you can see, it is unlikely that any vacant posts in the CTB, the Central Tenders Board, will be filled in this fiscal year. because we expect that in 2018, the Procurement Act will become operational, and, and that repeals the Central Tenders Board and removes the Central Tenders Board from our procurement system.
Member? Member? Vacant post was under valuation.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I apologize profusely, but I'm glad everybody gave me the chance to say what I just had to say. We'll send you the information in writing. Certainly.
0.
Could I ask?
Yes.
Do these vacant posts have anything to do with the assessment of properties related to the property tax?
Yes, it's for 50 persons.
50 persons.
Dealing with that exercise.
All right, County Central?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yes.
I'm fine.
Okay. So 011 National Insurance Appeal Board Tribunal, page 83. Financial Intelligence Unit, page 83. 017 Office of the Supervisor of Solvency, page 84. Member for Carney Central.
So there was no allocation for 2017. Sorry, not no allocation. No expenditure. And I just wanted to find out what happened.
We look into that because we did have somebody acting in the position. A new person has now been appointed by the Public Service Commission, somebody from the Treasury. So we'll let you know what went on there. But we are now building that office because Service Commission has appointed Inspector of Insolvency, finally.
Okay. Subhead 02, Goods and Services, 001, General Administration, pages 84 to 86, Member for Carney Central.
16, Contract Employment. Are these contract employees on the establishment and you intend to hire more, or is it something else?
There is a provision for 16 additional, sorry, not 16. There is a provision for additional persons in our IT unit or building management unit and the legal and advisory sections of the ministry.
Okay.
Member for Kamutuman, sorry.
Okay, no, that's another item. Services, I wanted to ask 28. Which is other contracted services. What are those for?
Advisory.
Legal and advisory.
We have a lot of legal matters.
There's an explanation in the explanation column. Member for Kamuchu Mansinala?
Yes.
Member for
Thank you.
Kamuchu Mansinala?
Thank you. Member already asked a question. Thanks.
Item 002, Budget Division, page 86. Member for Carney Central?
Yeah, no, I had another question on the item you just left.
No problem answering the question there. Go ahead, if you don't mind, Madam.
Yeah, just two questions, really. One is on 36, Extraordinary Expenditure. I just went to...
Well, there's no provision for it, and there's been none since 2016.
Okay, and I notice, and I'm going to raise this, Minister, because I see it as a pattern, which I will draw to your attention, which is the increase in janitorial services, 37, and the increase in security services, 43. So you can either respond or...
I'll explain.
Yeah.
A collective agreement was signed with MTS workers, and it has taken effect.
All right, so this is an increase in salaries for existing, and this is both janitorial and security?
No, just security.
Just
the
security.
janitorial is still outstanding. We're working on that right now.
All right.
002, Budget Division, page 86. Item 003, Customs and Excise Division, pages 87 and 88. Caroni Central.
Yes, on 28, other contracted services, just an example. Is it the items identified on the right here, 28? Yes. All right, I won't pursue that, Minister.
Well, let me just say, because it's important, we are going to this year, finally, as long as there's no further obstacle, operationalize the scanners, the container scanners. That's what that is about. I say, as long as there's no further obstacle. I think you are aware. I think you are aware.
Item 004, Inland Revenue Division, pages 88 and 89. Member for Caroni Central.
I know you gave an explanation just now. You said negotiations on janitorial services. I note the increase, 1.1 million. Is that for the same matter, Minister, anticipating negotiated increases?
What item?
Yes.
All right, okay.
Item 005, Treasury Division, pages 89 and 91. Item 008, Kamucha Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Line item 15, repairs and maintenance. Can the Honorable Minister indicate how many equipment are expected to be repaired or need repairs, and is there a list in it?
Where is she?
It requires 6 million.
Member, where are you?
Page 90, is it? 15, repairs and maintenance.
Repairs and maintenance of equipment, of buildings. Item 21. Item 21?
15. 15.
Item 15, repairs and maintenance
6
of
million,
equipment.
yeah.
Remember, this is labeled in a funny way, but what it is the upgrade of the integrated human resource information system, which is very, very important. At the present time, the present antiquated system only allows one payroll cycle per month. Right. So if you have an extraordinary requirement to pay in the middle of the month or whatever, you can't use the IRIS system for that. So we are upgrading the software to bring it, to best in class, best practice. So that's what that is for.
Member for Caroni Central.
Yes. 02 on page 89.
What, 89? We passed them, man. Madam Chairman, where's that? What are you doing back there?
37 and 43. The increases there for janitorial services and security are quite substantial.
Talking about inland revenue?
Members at page 90.
No, you're saying 89?
At page 90, 37 and 43.
That's where it is?
Yes, please, and that's where we all are.
I heard 89, but it's the same thing.
No, but they are more substantial than could be accounted for by negotiated settlement or...
No, we have additional facilities. Come on, they have a big government campus across the road.
So it's additional employees.
We have additional responsibilities in terms of security and janitorial services because the new building, customs and
Demands more.
Board of Inland Revenue, it's a big building. It demands more.
Okay.
008 Investment Division, page 91. Member for Point of Peer.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Line item 28, other contracted services, budgeted amount is 70 million. The footnote says includes provision for divestment of state enterprises and special audits.
What we are doing is what should have been done years ago. We are going to be taking a critical look at the efficiency of state enterprises. So we'll be doing a number of special audits of the 100-odd state enterprises for the first time, to look at them to see where we can achieve savings and greater efficiency. So that's what that is for.
And the other first part of that footnote was divestment of state enterprises.
Well, we have a plan in the coming year. For example, we were looking at a public-private partnership with respect to VEMCOT. It's in the conceptual stage at this point in time, and you need specialist expertise to do these things. You can't do it by VAPs.
So VEMCOT is the only state agency on the table right
Well, I
at this
mean,
point in time.
a public offering is a form of divestment. When you do the divestment of shares in FCB, in TTNGL, and then we're also looking at divestment of equity in TGU and so on. You need specialist expertise to do these things. You can't just do it arbitrarily. We don't want to fall into the trap that your government fell into with the FCP IPO. Our IPOs have been clean. They've been clean.
Thank you so much, Minister.
Might we proceed, please? 009 Central Tenders Board, page 92. 010 Valuations Division, page 93. 011 National Insurance Appeal Board Tribunal, page 94. 014 Financial Intelligence Unit, pages 94 and 95. Member for Naparima.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item 16, contract employment. See the significant sum of $6 million. I know what the minister said yesterday about employment, permanent employment, but given the sensitive information available in the Financial Intelligence Unit, and the fact that somebody could be employed for 3 years, and then at the end of the contract, he goes into the private sector and whatnot, and he has knowledge of that kind of information. Is it the best practice to have a significant number of bodies, and perhaps you could give us the number, employed as contract officers and having access to sensitive information on citizens of the country?
The inability of the government of Trinidad and Tobago to compel the Public Service Commission to fill vacant public service posts has not changed in the last 24 hours. We are still constitutionally unable to compel the Public Service Commission to fill public service posts in the time frame that we would like.
Mr. Minister,
all we can do is ask.
The question is
we can meet with them. No, but I am making a point. Yesterday this came up, and nothing has changed between yesterday and today. We are still constitutionally unable to compel the Service Commission to appoint people to this division.
Have you inquired what are the blockages in terms of output? Could it be that the service commissions are not fully resourced, and therefore that may be the bottleneck? So therefore, to say that you have no responsibility whatsoever is to me unacceptable.
I did not say we had no responsibility, Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, just to clarify, it is not being said at all that we have no responsibility. We just don't have the authority. On the contrary, depending on the posture of the Commission, they may or may not meet with us. There have been commissions and chairmen who took the position that they are an independent body, and therefore they don't have to speak to the government. On the other hand, the current board, I as Prime Minister, in following up exactly what you were talking about, request to meet with them, we met with them, it bore some fruit, but of course the tree is the problem. The whole question of the role of the Service Commission as managers and suppliers to the public service is a fundamental problem which has to be addressed away from this exercise.
Item 017, Office of the Supervisor of Insolvency, page 95. Member for Kamuta Mansinela.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, line item 01, travel and subsistence. I noticed there was nothing spent in 2017, but there's an allocation of 50,000. Just to inquire, I know that you had indicated earlier that there was supposed to be an increase in staff and so forth. Is this allotment allocation in anticipation of intent to employ more staff?
Yes.
Subhead 03, minor equipment purchases, page 96. 001, general administration. 002, budget division. 003, customs and excise division. 004, inland revenue division, page 97. 005, Treasury Division. 008, Investments Division. 009, Central Tenders Board, page 98. 010, Valuation Division. 011, National Insurance Appeal Board Tribunal. 014, Financial Intelligence Unit, page 99. 017, Office of the Supervisor of Insolvency, page 99. Subhead 04, Current Transfers and Subsidies. 001, Regional Bodies, pages 99 to 100, member for Tabaquite.
Item number 12, Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility. I noticed that there is a substantial decrease of nearly $15 million in 2018 over 2017. That's the first question, why? And secondly, have we ever benefited from this insurance scheme? And for example, are people who are suffering currently for losses from the floods, would the country be able to benefit from this and distribute to people?
Is it last year there was a one-off payment to include extraordinary rainfall in this catastrophe risk insurance coverage? It was not there before. So that last year we took a decision, this government took a decision to include extraordinary rainfall as a risk within this insurance policy. I am told that the country has benefited from this insurance cover in the past, and we are currently looking to see whether it is applicable to current periods of heavy rainfall.
So while this was paid in 2017, well, it will be 16-17, is it then that we may not have, or do we have coverage for 17-18 that will include, for example, this period?
If we paid it last year, obviously we do.
We do?
Well, obviously. We paid it last year.
So just to clarify, you are saying that it is possible that those who are experiencing losses from the floods now, through this facility, through the government, can be compensated?
You have to understand the raison d'etre behind this insurance coverage. This was set up in the Caribbean really to deal with the effects of hurricanes, tropical storms, earthquakes, and catastrophic events of that nature. the extension of the policy towards, you know, heavy rainfall is something that we are exploring right now, or let's say the extension of payments to countries as a result of losses suffered from heavy rainfall is something we are currently exploring with the insurance provider to see whether Trinidad and Tobago can get some money out of this insurance to assist with damage caused by heavy rainfall. For the first time this is being done.
Right. No, I think it's good. It's commendable that we have bought insurance of floods, because obviously we have been having an unusual amount of floods over the last couple of years, last 3 years in particular. And I think that we should have, in fact, invested again, or invest again next year.
No, you don't, member. You've got to listen very carefully. I said it was a one-off payment to include rainfall.
Yes, and I'm saying...
And now we are covered for rainfall in this year.
In this year, and I'm saying...
To get into that, it's like you want to join a members club, let me use that analogy. You pay an entry fee, and then you pay an annual subscription.
Yeah, well, okay.
So we paid the entry fee, the analogous entry fee, to have the coverage extended to extraordinary rainfall, and now we pay an annual subscription where coverage for extraordinary rainfall is now a routine item in the policy.
But Minister, in 2017 you paid 23,625,000, okay? And you're paying the same 23,625,000 in 2018. You just said that you have to pay, in addition to your entrance fee, as it were, you now have to pay a maintenance fee on the insurance for rainfall. I don't see that maintenance fee as it were included under the 23,625.
Let me just clear up any misunderstanding you may have. We are now covered for extraordinary rainfall.
Okay.
Clear?
Okay.
Thank you.
Member for Naparima.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Item 0401, contribution to the Caribbean Development Bank, and I'm seeing an increase of 15.5 million. And the question I'm asking is, I'm seeing various contributions by the Trinidad taxpayer to institutions of the Caribbean. For example, CSME, I saw some monies allocated, the CARICOM Secretariat, UE, CARFA, Impacts, etc. Do we have a sense of the total amount of money that the taxpayer is putting out to this enterprise called CARICOM? So we could have a sense of what Trinidad and Tobago is doing in a beneficial manner for CARICOM. Because we tend to hear that we do trade and how we depend on their trade, and I do not think there's a counter-narrative about how much we do for CARICOM.
And before I answer that, let me just deal with something that has come up. The cover for extraordinary rainfall was effective from the first part of this year, 2018. I'm told in the first quarter of 2018, we became eligible for that. Sorry, 2017, actually, I'm now being told 2017. So I just want to make that clear. So we are covered as of now. As we speak, we are covered for that. But what it means is something that has to be looked at. It's the interpretation. Sure. So this is really for catastrophic events. With respect to CARICOM, I'm afraid I am not qualified to deal with that matter. That question should be directed to the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs. But I can only deal with payments made by the Ministry of Finance.
Right.
Our membership in CARICOM, what we get out of it, the sense of it, the whole spectrum. I am not qualified to answer that. I direct that question to the Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs.
Item 002, Commonwealth Bodies, page 100. Item 003, United Nations Organizations. Item 004, International Bodies, pages 100 and 101. Member for Point of Peer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I can go over to page 101 under Treasury Division, line item 03. Expenses in connection with international financial institutions. Firstly, just a sense of appreciation what those expenses are for. And in 2017, we had budgeted 36.9 million. In 2018, we budget 43.2, but in 2017 revised estimate, we only spent or contributed $67,000. I'm just trying to understand what would have this new amount of 7 million plus from the budget today.
One of the, well, I don't want to use the word bad, but one of the consequences of being a member of the Inter-American Development Bank, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and so on, is that from time to time, some of the poorer member countries ask for additional relief from these institutions, and a request is then made to all member states to increase their capital contribution to these bodies, and it's really by majority vote. So as Minister of Finance, from time to time, I would get a request to vote as a governor of the World Bank, for example, with respect to increased capital contributions, but we really don't have any say in this. Even if we said no, it's carried by the majority of members in the World Bank. And the choice you have is you drop out or you go with it. And I think there are far more benefits to this country to be continuing as members of the World Bank, the IDB, and so on. So this is increased capital contributions to the 7 million, the IDB in particular.
So is it, follow-up, is it fair to say that we were able to save 36 million as projected in 2017 because you didn't contribute, you weren't asked, the government wasn't?
We didn't have to.
No, okay.
Yeah.
So we estimate
we
more.
dodged that bullet.
Okay.
Okay.
Item 005, non-profit institutions. Item 007, households, page 102, member for Tabakit.
Minister, under VSEP, item number 17, Central Tenders Board, it's a new sub-item. What is the intention of this VSEP?
Well, if you took a look at the Procurement Act, you would see that the CTB workers have options, just like the RHA situation 20 years ago. They can opt to be separated, they can opt to be seconded, they can opt to be transferred, they can opt to be redeployed within the public service in some other position. So this is simply to give the workers in the Tenders Board the option, if they want to be separated, this is their separation, to pay the separation package. But it's optional to them.
Member for Point of Pear?
No, it was answered. Thank you.
Okay. Item 009, other transfers, page 103. Member for Caroni Central.
Yeah. 39, Office of Procurement Regulation. I see the allocation there to establish the office. So, Minister, based on what you said previously, given that we might have a procurement regulator as determined by His Excellency the President, we can assume proclamation of the legislation and establishment of the office.
But we are targeting this fiscal year because we've done a lot of forward planning. All ministries and agencies have been asked to determine the type of procurement unit they should have, because large ministries would have
would need
fairly large units. Small entities, like the Parliament, for example, might just need a couple of people. In some cases, they can take staff from within. In fact, we are promoting that. We don't want to increase the size of the public service.
Yes, and the cost.
So where you can redeploy people from within. So this is all in the expectation that once the procurement regulator is appointed by His Excellency, we can move swiftly to implement the Act.
Thank you. 41, Madam Chair, business stimulus program. Can I take it that this 50 million is related to your budgetary?
Yes, it is exactly what I announced in the budget. We've put these programs in the Ministry of Finance. For now, we are going to disburse. We will not be doing the evaluation per se, but we have the funds here. So as soon as the other entities do their evaluation, we will disburse. So we just put the money here for now. Okay? It may find its way into other ministries in due course.
Okay, so this will be a multi-ministry.
No. We're setting up the program, as I indicated, we're going to use a group of successful private sector entrepreneurs and businessmen to evaluate applications for the $100,000 grant for the small businesses. And once the group of entrepreneurs say, this is a good idea, it then goes to ministerial committee just to make sure it's consistent with government policy. And then an application will be made to the Ministry of Finance for disbursement. So the funds are just residing in the Ministry of Finance for disbursement. Okay?
Member for Tabakit.
CARICOM Development Fund, item 23 under transfers. There was a $140 million allocated but not actually given, according to the revised estimates, and now you're allocating 70 million. How do you decide on what is the quantum that you're allocating? And
this again is another agency like the IDB,
Yeah,
the World Bank, and they ask for additional contributions and additional capital contribution all the time.
is there a reason why the 140 million was not given?
We were able to reschedule, you know, because of our budgetary constraints. We were able to reschedule and do it in tranches rather than in one lump sum.
And can you explain the GPAN patent, please? Additional 3.954 million in this year?
Well, to maintain the patent, you have to pay. If you don't pay, all patents come with a cost, is an annual fee.
And this is worldwide?
Well, that's my understanding.
Okay.
Item 011, transfers to state enterprises, page 104. Member for Shogunas East.
No, Madam Chair, I was just going to ask whether you were calling Treasury Division, because I had a question under there.
Could have been done once we were under the item. We said we weren't calling the sub-items when we initially set the table with respect to our procedure. Okay, so once I called the subhead and the item, you were able to call anything, and that's why I've been calling pages. So we now at 011, transfer to state enterprises, page 104, member for Naparima.
Item 87, Government Information Services Limited, $19 million. I take this is separation package estimation?
Yes.
Okay.
Member for Kumuta-Mansinila.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, line items 42 and 57. If you can, not necessarily now, but in writing, indicate what this allocation specifically will deal with in these two entities. Thank you.
It's for subsidy of the air bridge.
Member for Shogunas East.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm safely on 104-011. Right. Honourable Minister, may we get some clarification or some explanation with respect to line items 40 and 42, please? SMCL and Caroni 1975 Limited, the allocations are for what?
Why are you continuing?
I'll deal with 42 now. As you know, Caroni 1975 Limited is still existing because there are a number of matters that still have to be resolved, such as disposal of property and things like that. So this is to pay the operating cost of that company as it continues on its long pathway towards final closure.
Might you be able to give me, I know you said something just now, but might you be able to give me some examples of the 14 million going to be used for? Because it's quite a sum of 14.4 million that you allocated to Caroni.
Caroni has long-term debt, Okay. So there's debt service involved.
Debt service.
Yeah.
And with respect to SMCL? 40.
SMCL is same thing. There's another company. The Ministry of Finance has, Trintoc is still on our books, for example. Because you know when you go to move to wind up these companies, some of them have all sorts of matters in the court, pending litigation, claims, mortgages, loans. It's a long, tedious process, and successive governments have had to grapple with this challenge. As I said, I used Trintoc as an example. Trintoc went out before I even came into this parliament, as far as I know, and is still trying to deal with residual debts and obligations of Trinidad. It's a very laborious exercise.
Member for Shogunas West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With respect to page 104, item 70 and item, and then I have another follow-up. Alutrint, operating expenses. Could you explain this operating expenses for Alutrint?
How much is it? That's the minimal operating expenses of the company, like board fees and office accommodation. It's a small number, as you could see.
So it's still operational then?
It's the same problem. We have litigation.
Okay.
I think the political leader, the Prime Minister, was very clear on the litigation that you have gifted us with respect to the Alutrint matter and gifted the country.
But then that follows up.
Let me clear that. Again, the operation of the company was closed down, but the company was not shut down because the company is engaged in business as per what I discussed earlier on. Yep. Alutrint still exists.
Okay, and that raises the other issue, line item number 88, Madam Chair. Alutech Limited, there is no allocation, but there is an allocation as we saw previously under energy. There is an allocation under the Ministry of Energy for the equity injection of 35 million last year, 661,000.
That's because that's an active company. The distinction is that Ministry of Finance is given the responsibility to wind up and close inactive companies.
Okay.
So that an allocation for an inactive company would be in finance, but an allocation for an active company would be in energy in this particular case.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Agricultural Development Bank, I see there's an allocation of 95 million in 2017 that was not released or used. And now there's 50 million in 2018. Is this money for capitalization of the bank for lending purposes? What is this money?
This is, listen, sorry, so let me use that terminology. As you well know, the loans at the ADB are heavily subsidized.
Yes.
And this is for subsidy. The ADB had enough money last year to meet the subsidy requirements. This is for this year. Okay, so they didn't need to rely on the Ministry of Finance to give them money last year to subsidize loans to farmers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And similarly, Trinidad and Tobago Mortgage Finance Company, the 45 million 837 that you are giving this year, is this also to subsidize the 2% and 5% loans?
Definitely. Yeah, those are heavily subsidized loans, and that's what that is for. The government pays the difference between the commercial rate and the subsidized rate.
And finally, 57, Caribbean Airlines. This $37 million that you are allocating, how much of this is fuel subsidy ready? Really, when in fact fuel prices have fallen? Sorry?
None.
So why are we continuing to subsidize Caribbean Airlines?
We're not subsidizing them. We subsidize costs of providing a transportation service between Trinidad and Tobago, for example.
Oh, this is the Trinidad to Tobago service?
Caribbean Airlines provides the service.
I know, but I'm just clarifying. This is specifically in the air bridge.
Yes, that's what the minister said.
Yeah.
I think I've said that twice. Should I say it 3 times?
Member for Kamutu Mansinala.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, back on line item 57, where you indicated that it was for fuel subsidies, but the removal of the fuel subsidies, I don't know if it impacts on jet fuel as well. And if it does, do you anticipate the government increasing the cost of travel on the air bridge?
Let me just clear this up. The passenger pays $300. The government of Trinidad and Tobago, this government and the one before, your government, pays $100. So Caribbean Airlines gets $400 for every passenger that travels on the air bridge. Jet fuel is not subsidized. Okay?
Agricultural Development Bank issue. You clarified the issue for the member for Tabakit. But in the budget, you had an agribusiness allocation. Where will that reside?
All three, the housing, construction initiative, incentive money, we put that in finance. The business, small business development incentive funding,
in finance.
The farmers incentive program, we put the money in finance.
Okay.
But of course, it is going to be the agricultural people who will assess the applications from the farmers and so on. Okay?
All right. And secondly, 68. I see for the IFC, we have an increase in allocation of about $18 million. And
well, it seems that the IFC is finally beginning to see some light at the end of the tunnel in terms of business processing outsourcing, which is really a fancy term for things like call centers and also providing what they call back office services, shared services and so on. So the TTIFC has told me that they intend to make a major thrust into attracting international companies to come to Trinidad and Tobago, to use Trinidad and Tobago as a center for business processing outsourcing, and that is what that funding is for.
okay, so basically the focus will be on business process.
No, we're continuing to try to attract an international bank to set up headquarters in Trinidad and Tobago to realize the objective of the International Financial Center. But in the meantime, the IFC is pursuing other initiatives to more or less achieve the same thing, but more from a ground-up level, rather a bottom-up rather than a top-down level.
Okay, fine.
Chaguanas East.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to just go back to line item 57, Caribbean Airlines Limited. Honorable Minister, you indicated that this was the subsidy for the air bridge to Tobago. The question I want to ask is Caribbean Airlines subsidized for any other route, including your responsibility through the Tobago House of Assembly, any other route of Caribbean Airlines, in addition
Not
to this?
at all, and that's one of the challenges faced because you took all Caribbean Airlines money to buy planes, and then you mortgage the planes until Caribbean Airlines pay the loan.
So Caribbean Airlines, you don't give them any money to subsidize any route, including that on behalf of the Tobago House of Assembly, to any destination in North America? To any destination in North America via TAB?
Isn't that THA? It's not done by the THA?
If you want, I'll repeat the question. Okay. I know what I say.
My understanding, in the discussion yesterday, we spoke about THA's allocation for airlift. It is the Tobago House of Assembly that pays these foreign carriers to bring tourists to Tobago, and that they have an allocation for that, for airlift. As far as I'm aware, Caribbean Airlines does not subsidize any other route or make any payments on behalf of the House of Assembly or anything like that.
Just again, for clarity of the records, ask specifically that, from your knowledge, the Tobago House of Assembly does not use any financing to subsidize any route for Caribbean Airlines out of Tobago. Caribbean Airlines.
I am not aware that the THA makes any payments to Caribbean Airlines for flying anywhere.
Okay.
Well, you may have information that I don't have.
Okay. Well, you might want to check. You might want to check the routes that maybe Caribbean Airlines use through Tobago to a North American destination.
Okay.
(014) loans to other governments, page 105. We now go to member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, just a quick one. When I asked the question earlier on line item, I'm on page 105. Line item 04, currently 1975 Limited. No, page 105.
All right, okay.
Yeah. Can I go ahead?
Well, okay, just let me call the
Okay.
item.
Oh, sorry, okay.
All right, thank you very much. We now at subhead 06, current transfers to statutory boards and similar bodies. Page 105004, statutory boards. Member Shogunas East.
Okay, so thank you, Madam Chair. When I asked the question earlier on line item 42 on page 104, the Honourable Minister indicated that that allocation was for debt servicing. But I'm seeing here again, 04 Caroni Limited, debt servicing. Might you be able to give us some details as to what this facility was secured for and how long again it has to go?
Some old loans. If you want a list of the old loans of Caronies, no problem.
You could put it in writing so we could take a look.
I said if you wish to get it, these are loans going back 20, 30 years, but if you want to get it, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, as we're here, let me just call because the member took us to 07 debt servicing. So let's just deal with it as we've already begun. 07 debt servicing. No, we're at 06. So 001 interest local loans. (009) interest on overdraft, page 106. (011) principal repayment local loans, page 106. Okay, so we are at subhead 06, current transfers to statutory boards and similar bodies. 004 statutory boards, and we're going to the other book. Draft estimates of revenue and expenditure of statutory boards and similar bodies of the Tobago House of Assembly. 07 National Lotteries Control Board. We are at page 147. Subhead 01, personal expenditure. Page 147. 001, general administration. Member for Point Appeal.
Oh, well, can I go down to goods and services on that same page?
That's 001, general administration. Subhead 02, goods and services. 001, general administration. Pages 147 and 148. Member for Point Appeal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Minister, line item 36, extraordinary expenditure of $3 million.
We'll find out for you.
Also, contract employment line 16. I noticed in 2017 you didn't do much contract employment, only 63,600, but this year budget 4.3.
If you look at the original allocation,
I know it's 4.4.
4.4. So there's always an intention to try and beef up the staff. It doesn't always materialize.
Well, maybe
so there's
you could
another
just
intention this year.
Okay, so could you just indicate in writing what those positions might be? Those intended.
Proposed,
Proposed.
sure, yeah. Okay.
Subhead 03, minor equipment purchases, page 149. Member for Point Appeal.
Madam Chair, I don't know if the Minister might guide me. I'm not seeing a line item, but I just asked the General, is there any debts by, say, lottery agents or thing that that might, I don't know when.
Really have to refer to a line item. You know. I can't give you that kind of leeway.
Yeah, okay, I'll pass, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
Member for Naparima.
Item 83, money for prizes online games. And I see a decrease of $25 million. Is this that they anticipate less business?
Remember, you've gone back. We are at subhead 03.
I'm on 148, page 148.
Yeah, we're on page 143, 148, but we are at subhead 03, minor equipment purchases.
Okay.
I believe you've gone back to general administration.
Just as a point here, the arithmetic seems to be wrong.
Subhead 04, current transfers and subsidies, page 148. (007) households, 009 other transfers. Honorable members, we will now move on to the draft estimates of the development program. We are at page 52. Subhead 09, Development Program, Consolidated Fund, page 52. Item 005, Multi-sectoral and Other Services, pages 52 to 54. Member for Caroni Central.
I ask the Minister of the progress on the project development of an integrated financial management information system.
Item
117, 017.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're continuing to upgrade the infrastructure. In terms of completion, date, and so on, that's what you're looking at?
Yeah, when is it? I know this has been ongoing for some time.
This, again, is a very laborious exercise. We're hoping to finish it within the next 2 or 3 years. It's very, very difficult because you're changing out your software across the entire financial system in every ministry and so on. It's not an easy exercise. I mean, governments have been trying to do this for many, many years.
I know that.
As I'm sure you'll appreciate.
But it will make so much more difference, you see.
I could not agree with you more. We'll get real-time information.
That's right.
In terms of revenue, expenditure, overdraft. We're really pushing hard for this.
Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am at item 059 on page 53. Implementation of a property tax regime. There is an allocation of 15 million estimate. Could the Minister explain what will this allocation be utilized for?
Well, it's essentially for accommodation, staffing, and I would say ancillary services. We're trying to do all of this in-house at this point in time. If we have to outsource, we may come in the media for supplementary allocation. But we've recruited over 100 persons, and we'll be recruiting more in 2018 to do the evaluation. That's the most difficult thing in all of this. The starting point is the valuation of properties. So you have to get that done, the assessment and evaluation, before you could proceed to collect the tax. So that's the focus in 2018, to complete that valuation exercise.
And I say in item 063, establishment of the Gaming Commission.
Well, that depends on you.
Well, the Minister is being very...
Waiting for your support and your vote. Well, you have been very supportive so far, but we hope that support continues. We want to bring that to the Parliament before the end of this calendar year, and get this Gaming Commission Act
Minister,
passed, and we expect your support
Minister,
for that.
Minister,
What is your legislation?
We make me and my colleagues make our presence felt progressive in that sense that the Joint Select Committee, as you're aware.
I know, but it's been in the committee for a year, and we had attempts to have meetings, and for one reason or another, members were not available. We kept trying. We eventually had meetings in September. I would really urge members opposite to work with the government and let's get this gaming commission established. You see what is going on outside there. Unregulated casino gambling. You see it for yourself. So let's work together to get this done.
Lest the national community think otherwise, Madam Speaker. My colleague, Minister, the member for Couva South, and I have attended all meetings of the Joint Select Committee.
I know, but it's been going on for 1 year. That's enough time. We need to get this thing done. So I'm pleading with the opposition.
Okay, members.
Work with the government to pass the gaming control
members,
bill.
member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honourable Minister, line item 057, allocation of 15 million. Yeah, just to get a little.
What's your question?
No, line item 057, just to get a little update with respect to that allocation.
Well, our plan is to establish the Revenue Authority in fiscal 2018.
2018.
So that's what that is for.
Okay.
That's the plan. Okay. Otherwise, again, we'll have problems with revenue collection if we don't do this.
Yeah, 059 property tax regime. I just wanted to ask the minister if there was any intention to bring the 2009 legislation for revision to the Parliament.
No.
The answer is no. The 209 tax remains. The 209 legislation remains.
The waiver or the amnesty, as the case may be, if that is what you're asking about, of the imposition of property tax expired at the end of 2015.
Yes.
We don't have any plan to extend that amnesty, if that's your question.
And which legislation will govern the implementation of the property tax?
The current one with some tweaking.
Okay, so it will come to Parliament. That's
some
what I'm
tweaking,
asking.
yeah, some tweaking.
Yes, okay.
Some tweaking.
Member for Kamutu Mansinella.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Public buildings, can I ask on that, Madam Chair? All right. Line item 114. I noticed there isn't any allocation for the refurbishment of the Trinidad House. Can the minister indicate?
They're moving out.
All right. Okay. Honorable Minister, I'm not seeing a line item for it, but I'm not seeing anything with the refurbishment of the Parliament, the Red House.
A matter for the Ministry of Finance.
Members. Member for Naparima? Sorry. We thought you vacated. We got that indication. We don't know why, but we're sorry.
Okay.
Naparima.
No, I'm asking on 045. Whistleblowing technologies. And my question is, what is that? And I note in 2017, 1 million was estimated, non-spent, and it has a reduced allocation this year. Has the government lost interest in whistleblowing, given experiences that are taking place?
At all.
So therefore, what is this technology?
It's to set up the database.
And why is it reduced? Why was it not spent in fiscal year 2017? Can I assume that you've lost interest?
It's not a Ministry of Finance matter, but I have some limited understanding of what transpired. My understanding is that the whistleblower bill was sent to a Joint Select Committee and got stuck because it did not receive the support of the opposition. That's my understanding.
So, that is not so.
Well, that's what I was told.
My understanding is that you have lost interest along the way.
At all.
So you are saying you're giving a commitment to the national community that whistleblowing is a high priority for this government. And
Yes,
we could
it
look
is.
forward to the 500,000 being spent this year.
I would hope so.
Thank you.
And yes, it's the highest priority.
Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $5,651,049,870 for head 18, the Ministry of Finance, stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $5,651,049,870 for head 18, the Ministry of Finance now stands part of the schedule. Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, Mr. PS, and all the other technocrats on the ministry. You all are discharged. Head 02, Auditor General. Head 02, Auditor General, $37,188,250. Members, you know at page 5. I will now invite the Minister of Finance to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes.
Madam Speaker, the Office of the Auditor General is the supreme audit institution for Trinidad and Tobago with the responsibility to audit public expenditure.
Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $37,188,250 for head 02, the Auditor General, stand part of the schedule. Honorable members, the sum of $37,188,250 for head 02, the Auditor General, is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of the recurrent expenditure and the draft estimates of development program. We now proceed to consider the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. We are at page 5, subhead 01, personal expenditure, item 001, general administration. Member for Kamutu Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, 01, salaries and costs of living. I notice there's a decrease. Is this office adequately staffed?
No, there's been a problem. When I was chairman of the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament in opposition, there's been a problem. It's the same problem with the Service Commission not appointing permanent public officers to posts. So, you know, the Auditor General's office continues to try its best to get the Service Commission to make the appointments and, you know, uses its best efforts, you know, with the staff that it has.
Kamutu Manzanilla.
Will it, has this impacted on the effectiveness and efficiency of the Auditor General being able to generate the reports on a timely fashion?
What we discovered when we were in the Public Accounts Committee is that it hampered the ability of the Auditor General's department to do what is called value for money audits, which is the modern trend. They are limited in terms of the number of value for money audits they can do. They do financial audits as a matter of course, but in terms of the number of value for money audits they can do with the resources that they have, they are limited. So that is an area that even then I was looking to see how we could support them to increase their capability to do value for money audits.
Member for Shogunas West.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. Consistent with that, Minister, could the Auditor General give us an appreciation of the number of vacant posts that needs to be filled? Yes. Can provide it in writing for purposes of speed.
53 at this point in time.
53 out of a complement of how many?
300. there are 22 staff on contract trying to fill the gap.
Item 002 Tobago Services, page 5. Subhead 02 Goods and Services, page 6. Item 001 General Administration, pages 6 and 7. Member for Chaguanas West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Under item 36, Extraordinary Expenditure, I know that the Auditor General, there was a ruling by the Equal Opportunity Tribunal against the Office of the Auditor General, not the current incumbent, the previous holder of the office, and that there was a damages to be paid in the sum of $500,000. Is it under extraordinary expenditure? I see no allocation for that.
Treasury is handling that.
Treasury is handling that?
Yeah.
Item 002 Tobago Services, page 7. Subhead 03 Minor Equipment Purchases, page 8. Item 001 General Administration. Subhead 04 Current Transfers and Subsidies. Item 001 Regional Bodies. Item 002 Commonwealth Bodies. Item 004 International Bodies, page 9. Honorable members, we will now move on to the draft estimates of the development program. We're at page 2. Subhead 09 Development Program Consolidated Fund, page 2, item 005 Multi-sectoral and Other Services. Member for Kamuta Manzanilla.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I can go to administrative services, right? I can, 001, administrative services.
Yeah, we'll be on page 2 and everything there is on the
Honorable
005.
Minister, thank you. Honorable Minister, just want to ask what process is being utilized to strengthen the Auditor General's department?
I'm advised that they are in the process of accessing a grant from the European Union to reorganize the division and to make it, best in class, best practice. They're getting the best available advice from international specialists.
Member for Caroni Central.
No, I pass.
All right. Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $37,188,250 for head 02, the Auditor General, stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $37,188,250 for head 02, the Auditor General, now stands part of the schedule. I want to thank the Auditor General and the other member from the Auditor General's office for coming. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call one more head before we break for lunch. Head 20, Pensions and Gratuities. Head 20, Pensions and Gratuities, $100 million. We are at page 123. I will now invite the Minister of Finance to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes.
The Pension and Gratuities Department is responsible for the assessment, evaluation of applications and claims for the payment of pension and gratuities, and the actual payment of these items. That's it.
Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $100 million for Head 20, the pensions and gratuities, stand part of the schedule. Honorable members, the sum of $100 million, for Head 20, the pensions and gratuities is comprised of monies proposed for expenditure under the following subheads and items to be found in the draft estimates of recurrent expenditure. Subhead 04, current transfers and subsidies, page 123. Item 007, household, pages 123 and 124. Member for Naparima.
Thank you very much. Item 19, heads of mission. And I'd just like to make the point that I was paid all my benefits under the caring government of this member for Siparia. But those heads of mission who retired, who demitted office after the last general elections, 90% of them have not been paid a single cent. And in fact, the last payment they received was the salary for the month in which they left. So the question is, could the minister explain what is the delay in paying pensions to these ex-diplomats?
There's no special relationship between ex-diplomats and delays. Delays are across the board. And as I've said in this parliament before, let me just repeat. In the 2014, 2015, 2016 period, there were a number of protests by the Public Services Association shutting down the various government departments that deal with the calculation of pensions on the grounds of occupational safety and health and that sort of thing, so that for months at a time, these departments were closed down. And as a result, there was a tremendous backlog that has built up. I can speak for parliamentarians. When I came in here as Minister of Finance, many parliamentarians approached me to assist them with getting their gratuity payments. In my own case, my documents had gone to the Ministry of Finance my documents had gone to the department from the parliament since around August of 2015, and I didn't get my own gratuity as a member of parliament for a year. So, and there were a lot of other members in the same. It's because of the tremendous backlog. But additional staff has been hired, and this is an area of focus for the Ministry of Finance to try and break that backlog and get pension and gratuity payments back on track. So it's not confined to diplomats, it's across the board. It's one of the things as Minister of Finance I have to deal with all the time. I get letters and requests all the time to assist people to get the pension and gratuity. And I must say, the Treasury does, they react very quickly as soon as, I ask them to deal with it, but there is a big backlog.
Minister, this is just for information. This problem has been ongoing prior to the work stoppage that you alluded to. It seems to me that, and I ask the question, why do public servants have to wait 2 years
I will also
in some instances to get when we know they're going to retire?
No, I will explain that. And I'll use a member of parliament to explain that. The member of parliament is not here this time. This is Cuba North. The member for Cuba North has had some difficulty in getting benefits from her previous position as a minister, because she had moved from ministry to ministry to ministry to ministry, maybe 4 or 5 different ministries. In order to pay the pension or the gratuity, as the case may be, you have to get the pension and leave records from each ministry, and it's a cascading effect. So you have to get the first one before you get the second one, before you get the third one, and before you get the fourth one. And the records in the public service generally are in such bad shape that sometimes you would get 3 out of the 4 ministries that are put, because public servants move around, they don't just stay in one place. So you get 3 or 4 ministries that a person has been in, or in the case of missions, someone might be posted in one country and then come back to head office and then be posted in another country, and you have to get the pension and leave records from all these different places. In some cases, it's a manual system, wherever it is. In some cases, it's automated. It's really a very, very difficult situation. I am hopeful that when the integrated financial information systems software and infrastructure is fully modernized and fully upgraded, we can finally bring an end to this problem. But that's the reason. People don't stay in one place. You know, they move from one area of the public service to the other, and the record keeping in each area is different, unfortunately. Okay?
Member for Kamutu Mansanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was answered for 01 and 02 through the extensive explanation by the Minister. Thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the sum of $100 million for Head 20, pension and gratuities, stand part of the schedule. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. The sum of $100 million for Head 20,